Let's continue with Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 6. Now, in this scene, everyone enters Macbeth's palace in Inverness. Duncan, Banquo, Macduff, Donalbain, Malcolm, Ross, Lennox, and all other lords, they visit the castle of Macbeth, and they are outside the castle when Duncan says, "This castle hath a pleasant seat, the air nimbly and sweetly recommends itself unto our gentle senses." So Duncan finds this palace wonderful. He says that the castle has a very pleasant atmosphere around it. The air is blowing very softly and gently, and the castle is very praiseworthy. It's very likable. Recommends itself means it's very likable for Duncan. Banquo says, "This guest of summer, the temple haunting Marlet, does approve by his loved masonry that the heaven's breath smells wooingly here." Marlet is a kind of bird. It seems that just outside the palace there is a nest made by this bird Marlet. Now, according to Banquo, this bird Marlet generally builds its nests outside the temples. Now, here when you see a nest for a Marlet outside the palace of Macbeth, it's quite sure that the Marlet likes this place as much as it would have liked a temple. So temple hunting Marlet means a Marlet bird which likes to make its nest near the temple has built its nest outside the palace of Macbeth, which shows that indeed the air blows quite smoothly and nicely in this particular place. No jetty, frieze, buttress, nor coign of vantage, but this bird had made his pendant bed and procreant cradle, where they most breed and haunt. I have observed the air is delicate. Marlet is very careful in building its houses. It does not build its houses in risky places, but compared to the other palaces or other castles, this particular place seemed to have been the most safe for the Marlet. That is why the Marlet has built its nest to give birth to its future generation in this palace. So when the bird has built its nest here, it is a sure shot sign that this place is safe and secure place. At this moment, Lady Macbeth enters the stage and Duncan notices her. Duncan says, see, our honored hostess, the love that follows us sometimes is our trouble, which we thank as love. Herein I teach you how you shall bid God lead us for your pains and thank us for your trouble. He says that sometimes when we love someone very much, we have to take a lot of trouble for those people. So Lady Macbeth had to take the trouble for coming out herself to receive us just because she loves us very much. So he says that I'm glad that you took the trouble and you came out to receive us here. Lady Macbeth says in very flattering manner, all our services in every point twice done and then done double were poor and single business to contend against those honours deep and broad wherewith your majesty loads our house. She says that whatever we do, if we multiply that with 2 and then again double it, that means in a way to make it 8 times, then even then it will be less in comparison to what you have done for us. You have given us great honors by visiting our house. After all, he is the king. So when the king decides to visit somebody's house, it must be a huge honor for that person. So Lady Macbeth says, we are really greatly honored by your decision to come and stay with us tonight. For those of old and late dignities heaped up to them, we rest your hermits. So we are at your service. For all the dignities that you have given in past and present, we are your servants, your hermits. We are ready to attend you. Duncan says, where is the Thane of Cawdor? We coursed him at heels and had a purpose such I account thy love. Art thou afeared to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art in desire? Wouldest thou have, excuse me, I just went to a wrong page. To be his, I'm just reading it once again. Where is the Thane of Cawdor? He is referring to Macbeth as the Thane of Cawdor. We coursed him at his heel and had a purpose to be his purveyor. So we were chasing Macbeth at his heel. That means very nearly we chased him, and we tried to become his overrunner. We tried to run faster than him, but we failed. But he rides well, and his great love, sharp as his spur, hath helped him to his home before us. But it seems that he ride better than us, and his greater love for you and for us made him run faster, so that he could come and announce about our arrival. Fair and noble hostess, we are at your guest tonight. Lady Macbeth says, your servant ever have theirs themselves, and what is theirs in compt to make the audit at your highness's pleasure, still to return your own. So whatever we have is all because of you. So if we are doing something for you, it's just we are returning what is your own, nothing big. So this scene is not really important. It's just a scene where we see that Banquo and others along with Duncan arrive at the palace, and Lady Macbeth greets them. So this scene really is not so important. Now we will go to the next scene, Act 1, Scene 7. This is very important because we see one of the most important soliloquies of Macbeth. So each and every line that Macbeth utters in his soliloquy is very, very important for you. I cannot tell you to underline each and everything, so it's better you mark the whole speech as very important. The first speech of Macbeth in this scene, that is his soliloquy. So what is happening is basically Duncan has come inside and he has been served his dinner, and everybody is very busy to serve dinner to the king. Lady Macbeth is busy in attending the king, but instead of being busy in attending the king, instead of looking after the well-being of the king, Macbeth is in one corner of his house thinking deeply about what he should do next. So Macbeth says, if it were done when it is done, then it were well, it were done quickly. It here means murder. Macbeth is so much conscious about the whole idea of murder, so afraid about the whole idea of murder, that he doesn't even use the word murder. He continuously refers to it by some other name. He uses pronouns here. Excuse me. He says that if we had to do the murder, then it's better that we did it quickly. If the assassination, so assassination is a word which is an original creation of Shakespeare. Before Shakespeare there was no word in English called assassination. Today we know assassination means murder. So Macbeth is so afraid of murder, as I said, that he doesn't use the word murder, he uses the word assassination. Says, if the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with the surcease success, that but this blow might be the be all and the end all here, but here upon this bank and shoal of time we would jump the life to come. He says that if committing a murder was the end of all, then I would have easily done the murder. But it is not so. Even in this life, you will have to face consequences for doing a murder. When you do something as bad as murder, there are several consequences that you have to face in your life. For example, the people who are quite fond of you, quite friendly to you, can turn against you after doing that. Secondly, if you are caught, you can be punished, you can be tortured for doing that murder. Thirdly, you have your own conscience to face, you have your own guilt to face. Your guilt tortures you, your guilt makes you feel terrible when you do something as bad as a murder. So Macbeth says that if murder meant just kill the person and finished, then I could have done that. But it is not so. In this bank of river shoal, in this shoal of time, in this bank of river Leith, also we have to face consequences. Now you know, in mythology it is said that there is a river that separates the land of the living and the land of the dead. So this bank of time, or this bank of the river, means the life. So you will have to face the consequences of murder in this life itself. In that life, that means after death, you will be punished by God and sent to hell. That is different. But in this life itself, you will have to face a lot of punishment, a lot of torture if you commit the sin of murder. So if somebody promised me that by committing the murder everything will be finished, I would have done that. But I know I will have to face the consequences while I am alive, well, while I am still on this side of the river that separates life and death. But in these cases, we still have judgment here, that we but teach bloody instructions which being taught return to plague the inventor. So he says that in this side of life, that means in life also, there is judgment. And when we do something bad, that bad things return to us and harm us. So when we start something bad, ultimately that bad thing comes back to us and hurts us, harms us. Commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips. If we take a glass of poison and give it to somebody, fate or destiny ultimately will bring back the same glass near our own lips. He, very important line, he is here in double trust. First, as I am his kinsman and his subject, strong both against the deed. Then, as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door and not bear the knife myself. So he says that Duncan has come here in two trusts, double trust. First of all, he trusts me because I am his relative and he is my king and I am his subject. So as his relative and as his subject, it is my duty to protect him, not to kill him. Secondly, and more importantly, I am his host and he is my guest. And courtesy demands that when you have given somebody shelter in your house, you should do everything possible to protect that person. If I have hosted Duncan to my house, if I have protected Duncan to my house, then I should be doing everything possible to save his life, not to bear the knife myself and kill him. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels' trumpet tongue against the deep damnation of his taking off. The second problem about, so the first, there are till now Macbeth has discussed three problems about killing Duncan. First, if I kill him, I will have to face judgment in this life. Secondly, he is here in double trust, as my relative and king as well as my guest. Thirdly, Duncan has been an excellent king. He has been so nice as a king, he has been so good to people as a king, that if I kill him, everybody will turn against me. If I would have killed a bad king, a cruel king, people would have been happy with me that good, this man has done something good by killing an evil person. But Duncan till now has behaved so well with the people. Duncan till now has been so nice to everyone, that killing Duncan would mean something really terrible for Macbeth. And underline, pity like a naked newborn babe striding the blast, or heaven's cherubim horsed upon the slightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deeds in every eye, that tears shall dawn the wind. A metaphor has been used here. Pity or sympathy is compared to a little newborn child. Why? When you see a newborn baby, the first feeling that you feel for that naked newly born baby is the sympathy, love, pity for that helpless creature. So that is why Macbeth is comparing pity to a naked newborn baby. He says the feeling of pity will travel like a storm in every corner of Scotland, and touch the hearts of all citizens of Scotland. If I kill such a kind and good king like Duncan, immediately the wave of sympathy will spread all over the kingdom, and the people, out of their pity for Duncan, out of their sympathy for Duncan, out of their love for Duncan, will start hating me and try their best to pull me down. So he is using a lot of fanciful words here. Heaven's cherubim. Cherubim is an angel. The heaven's cherubim is nothing but the storm which blows over the sky. Horse upon the flightless careers of air. Pity will be sitting on air, and you know air has a chariot which is not visible. So Pity sitting on the invisible chariots of air. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition which overleaps itself and falls on the other. So I have no other reason to commit the murder other than my ambition. It is only my ambition that is poking me, that is pinching me to jump over the horse and sit at its back. But I am afraid that I may jump too high, and instead of sitting on the back of the horse, I may fall on the other side. So this is a very appropriate metaphor. He is trying to jump and sit on the royal throne, but it seems that like some amateur horse rider, instead of sitting at the back of the horse or sitting on the throne, he may jump so high that he will fall on the other side. At this moment, so it seems that Macbeth is convinced to some extent that he should not go on with the plan of murder. He should avoid murder. So Lady Macbeth enters the stage, and he says, Macbeth says, "How now, what news?" Lady Macbeth says, "He has almost supped," that means Duncan has completed his supper. "Why have you left the chamber?" Why did you leave the chamber? Because when your guest has come to dine at your house, as the host, you should remain present inside the chamber. You should not roam about here and there. Macbeth says, "Hath he asked for me?" Lady Macbeth says, "No, you not, he has." Macbeth says that, "Was Duncan asking for me?" And Lady Macbeth says, "Obviously you know he must have asked for you." Macbeth says, "We will proceed no further in this business." See, again he doesn't say murder, he says this business. So we will not go ahead in this business of murder. "He hath honoured me of late, and I have bought golden opinion from all sorts of people, which would be worn now in their newest gloss, nor cast aside so soon." So he says that, he does not tell everything to Lady Macbeth, he just gives a hint to her that I cannot commit the murder. First of all, because Duncan has given me a lot of honor recently, and secondly, I have got great public opinion in my favor. Everybody is favoring me, everybody is loving me because what I have done. So all the favor and love that I have got is like a dress that I should wear now and feel the glory of it, not keep it aside. Because the moment I kill Duncan, the good positive opinion that has been created in the country for me will be gone. So he says that instead of killing him, I would rather continue to enjoy the prestige that I have won. Dress imagery has again been used. The honor that has been given to him is compared to a new dress which Macbeth wants to wear, not to throw away so soon. Lady Macbeth is now in full charge. She is very angry. She thought that her husband is fully convinced to commit the murder. So she is shocked that her husband is rather planning not to do the murder. So she says, "Was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since, and wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely?" She says that the hope that you showed me, the dream that you showed me, was it at a time when you were drunk? That means the promise that you made me that you would become the next king of Scotland and make me the queen. Did you say that when you were in a drunken position? Were you sleeping till then, and when you woke up, you felt that it was a bad dream and you just tried to forget it for now? From this time, I account thy love. So she is using, as we say in India, she is using Sham Dam Dand Bhed to create that impression on the mind of Macbeth that he must do the murder. Sometimes she is scaring him, sometimes she is threatening him, sometimes she is supporting him with her love, sometimes she is taunting and insulting him, awakening his manliness. What were you doing? Why didn't you go and kill? And all these type of things. So she is trying every possible trick to force Macbeth to do the murder. So just like your promise of murder, I think your promise of love is also fake. I feel that you do not really love me. Your promise of love was a fake one for me. Art thou afeard to be the same in thine own act and valor as thou art in desire? You desire to get something and you are so afraid to do something to get it. You are afraid to achieve your target, the target that you yourself had set. Wouldest thou have that which thou estimest the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wet upon I would, like the poor cat in the adage? So he says that, will you be able to live for your whole life with this shame that you got an opportunity and you lost it? You have the opportunity to become the king, you have the desire to become the king, but just because you are so afraid, you are letting go of that opportunity. Will you be able to survive with this shame? Will you be able to survive with this loss of leaving this opportunity of becoming the king just because you are the cat in the adage? There is a Bengali saying, I think Shakespeare is referring to the same one. It says that the cat is sitting on the bank of the pond. It wants to catch the fish, but it does not want to dip its paw. So without wetting the paw, the cat wants to get the fish. So without staining his hands with blood, Macbeth wants to commit the murder and get the crown. Macbeth says, "Prithee, peace, I dare do all that may become a man who dares do more is none." Macbeth says, please keep quiet. I have the courage to do everything that a man can do. Who tries to do more than this is not a man. He must be a beast, a devil or something else, but not a man who tries to do more than this. Lady Macbeth continues, "What beast was it then that made you break this enterprise to me? You are telling that this is inhuman, this is not manly. Then when you had broken that plan to me in writing that letter, when you told me that you want to be the king, what kind of animal were you then? Because at that time also you are a man, Macbeth, and now also you are a man. You are the same person. You have not changed. So how can your resolution change?" Now here there is a big doubt. Macbeth has never written in his letter, or he has never spoken to Lady Macbeth directly that he wants to commit murder. He says that he was given Cawdor Glemis, and he says that I have been promised to be the next king of Scotland, but he has never said that I want to kill Duncan to be the next king. So how did Lady Macbeth get this knowledge about his heart? This brings the question, is Lady Macbeth a superhuman? Is she a witch? Like the other three witches, is Lady Macbeth the fourth witch? The answer to this question is there in the text itself. The witches indeed have special knowledge and special power and special control over Macbeth's mind, but the witches do not suffer from guilt. The witches do not become mad after killing somebody. The witches are not afraid of seeing an old man in his bed. That is why Lady Macbeth cannot be called a witch. She is very much a human being who fails to understand her own limitations, who fails to understand her own husband. Okay, let's continue. "When you durst do it, then you were a man, and to be more than what you were, you would be so much more than a man." When you wrote that letter and promised me, at that time also you were a man, not a beast or not an animal. And if you just do a little bit, just if you go and kill Duncan, then you will be something more than a man. You will not just remain as a man, but you will be a king. Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both they have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you. At that time, when you made the plan of killing Duncan, neither time was in your favor nor the situation was in your favor. But now, see, everything is in your favor. Duncan is in your house. You can fully commit the murder. I am with you to support you. In such a perfect time, you are afraid of doing the murder. I have given, underline, very important thing to understand the character of Lady Macbeth. I have given suck and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this. She says, in a very inhuman way, that I have been a mother and I have given my breast milk to my child. I know how sweet, how soft it is for a mother to see the baby sucking her milk. But suppose if I had given my word to someone, suppose if I had made a promise to someone to kill my child, then I would not hesitate to pluck my baby from my nipple and to throw it against a wall and dash the head of the baby just to fulfill my promise. She is basically trying to say that she is so hard-hearted, she is so strong-willed as a person that she will not hesitate in killing the baby that is breastfeeding if she had given a promise to someone. This again makes us question, can a woman, a human being do this? Can a mother kill her baby who is breastfeeding? No, a mother will not be able to do this. So is Lady Macbeth still a witch? Only a witch or an inhuman creature can do this. No, Lady Macbeth is not a witch, because she is saying I would have done. She has not actually done this. People can say many things, but it's not necessary that people will do everything that they say. Macbeth is partially convinced. He says, if we should fail, what happens if we fail? Lady Macbeth says, we fail, but screw your courage to the striking pace and we will not fail. Just tighten up your courage a bit and see we will not fail. When Duncan is asleep, back to rather shall his day's hard journey soundly invite him. His two chamberlains will I with wine and vessel, so convinced that memory the waterer of the brain shall be a fume, and the receipt of reason a limebeck only. When a Swinish sleep, their drenched natures lie as in death. What cannot you and I perform upon the unguarded Duncan? What not put upon his spongy officers, who shall bear the guilt of our great quill? So she says that Duncan is very tired after the hard day's journey, and very soon he is going to have a sound sleep. And the attendants in Duncan's room, I am going to totally feed them with wine and totally make them soak wine like a sponge, so that they are totally out of their senses. When Duncan will remain in his bedroom without any guard, when his guards will be totally intoxicated, you and I can do anything. We can easily commit the murder. Macbeth says, very important, bring forth men children only, for thy undaunted metal should compose nothing but males. Give birth to only men, because you have so much courage, Lady Macbeth, that your womb should give birth only to men. Why? She is a woman, and being a woman she is saying such harsh words, so why only men? Will it not be received when we have marked the blood with those sleepy two of his own chamber and used their very daggers that they have done it? Suppose we put that blood of Duncan on the body of those murderers and our daggers also in their hands, will it not be caught? Will not anybody understand that we have done it? Lady Macbeth says, who dares receive it other, as we shall make our griefs and clamor roar upon death. We will shout so much, we will cry so much that nobody will dare to doubt us. Macbeth says, I am settled and bend up, each corporal agent to this terrible feat. Away and mock the time with fairest show, false face must hide what fair said doth know. So Macbeth says that, okay, I am determined, I am settled that I am going to complete the work of murder and go and for the time being pretend that everything is fine, with a false face, with a pretense, with hypocrisy, try to hide what is there in your heart. That's all for the scene.